evening to one and all present here. I'm Astha Joshi, a student of class 10th in FAPES DPS Kuwait. I'm one of the student moderators today. I'm joining you all from Kuwait today, and I'm very glad to be a part of this WSIS event. A very warm welcome to all the panel members, Mr. C.C. Tan, COO, WillowgienMSC Malaysia, Mr. Paresh Shah, CEO of Allied Digital Services Limited, Mr. Subhajit Mazumdar, Director of Strategic Growth, Microsoft India, Mr. P.P. Sunil Acharya, Indian Head of Education, Amazon Web Service, Mr. Swapnil Jain, CEO of ORAI, Mr. Paramantapa Dasgupta, Senior Manager of Automation Anywhere University, Training and Partnerships, Government Initiatives, and Miss Rashmi Furtado, quiz host and co-founder of TeacherTribe.World. Mahatma Gandhi's quote, "The difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems," seems highly relevant on the occasion of Gandhi Jayanti. The topic of this session is technology is disruptive. How companies are fueling the innovation as a catalyst for the ever-changing scenarios. How the benefits of such intervention can reach the bottom strata of the society. I now welcome our events panel moderator, Ms. Rashmi Furtado, quiz host and founder of TeacherTribe.World, who is a charismatic leader with a lot of passion for education and children in particular. She has been in the education space for over a decade. She is presently the only professional woman quiz host in India, having hosted more than 150 shows in over 50 cities of India and overseas.
Thank you, Astha. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear students. It's an amazing opportunity that I have to moderate this esteemed panel here today. Let me begin with a small quote. I just thought of simply Googling on what innovation is. And of the many things that appeared, one of my favorite quotes was from Sir Ken Robinson. His quote is, "If you're not prepared to be wrong, you will never come up with anything original." I thought that fits this particular occasion perfectly. And with that, let's start our panel discussion here today. The entire flow would be such that I would call upon each of our esteemed speakers, and they would speak about their view on innovation in the corporate world. Let me first begin with Mr. C.C. Tan. He has over 30 years of experience in technology leadership, in leading small and large teams in leading edge innovative companies, including HP, Dell, Intel, and IBM. He is an experienced program and project manager with a deep understanding of the use of IT methodologies, best practices, processes, and standards. Mr. Tan, I would request you to please lend your view on innovation in corporate world.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. So we are coming to the end of the day, and I'm one of the speakers from this part of the world, the Southeast Asia. So first of all, I congratulations to Sandeep and Atia. Met them briefly. It's amazing that the idea came out and it's really timely. So as I been working in the IT and the technology industry for the last almost 30 years, and I look back at the how the technology has evolved. But one of the things through my experience, they are in terms of what the innovation has evolved, right? One of the things that go back to the core is that the basic fundamentals that divide the society still didn't go away from the core skills that make the persons innovative. And that's where I look at the critical thinking skills and also the creativities, and also which leads to the problem solving. And in the many companies, all these leading companies I work with, as we look at the candidate, I have worked with many candidates and hire many talented people from various top universities and also from the low-end universities, you can say that the people has been exposed to technology because of their upbringing and their backgrounds. However, when it comes to creativities, the fundamental skills of innovations still come from this the foundation that they have been built. So I see that how we can bridge the gap in the society in terms of how, and I believe that many countries have done that. I came from this part of the world, the Southeast Asia, where the different level of maturities, from the more matured in Singapore, like to Malaysia, and to the less behind, like Indonesia and Philippines, people are actually exposed to different kinds of advances in technologies. But that doesn't mean that the students who are behind, they cannot be innovative and creative. It's just that the quantums of people who have been successful in these areas are not as much as people who have been exposed to much of the technologies. By the end of the day, I see a lot of surprises. And also at the corporate world, when it comes to how we build that, bridge the gap, right? I often launch a lot of these internships program, and not only targeting the top-notch universities, we took in a lot of the people from a more low-ranked universities. And in the company, typically we have programs, that equal levels in terms of how their foundations, where the people have the early start in terms of technologies. We look at how the fundamental, that's where I go back to building this core skill in terms of how you cultivate the critical thinking skills and also the creative thinking skill, and as well as the problem solving skills. And I see that if we can start that early in the career, like in the early day in the school, like somewhere like, secondary school, we can bridge the gap much earlier in terms of bringing up the, level field for people who are at the low end of social pyramids. And I see that very prominent because in the 30 years careers, when I brought up many employees, I see that by the time they reach the level of graduates, right, some of them haven't been exposed to this kind of level of thinking compared to those who have. And very quickly, once you bring up that level of thinking and maturities, they never look back, because even though they have not been exposed to too much technology in the early days, that has actually kind of like make a lot of difference in terms of bridging the gap on how the society have divided in terms of not able to expose to more advanced thinking and also more advanced technologies. Maybe I see technologies, maybe people tend to jump into it because, even in the lawmakers, because there's easy ways. They have money, they can just pump in a lot of money to build infrastructures. But you don't build the soft skills, and that's where I see the behind. And the tendency is that you get a quick win in terms of the infrastructure of technology, but then you don't build the foundation of society. And the group who are far behind, they continue behind because they don't get exposed. So you build a maturity in terms of thinking. I think some of them will be taken care of as they move. And later part of the career, when they get exposed to technology, they can quickly catch up. So that's my sharing in terms of how I think in terms of where the corporate can be playing their parts. Not only from the infrastructure perspective, I think can contribute in terms of building the fundamentals, in terms of developing the critical thinking skill, developing the creativities, and that along and help to do the problem solving. I believe what the ATIA is doing is really a problem solving, right? You see a problem in the pandemics and you solve the problem. And all the innovation come from problem solving, because in the 21st centuries, I don't think that we are talking about building any disruptive innovation again. It's all about incremental innovations. And all this comes with the critical thinking and then day-to-day incremental thoughts. I believe that we can make a lot of things much better and then bridge the gap of society. That will be very much for me, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tan.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful to have people like you join us with this vast experience that you have, and especially having academic exposures like being a part of the Harvard University. And another thing is, it's wonderful to be truly global. Someone from Kuwait introduces all of us. I join in from a small town from the southern part of India, and you join us from Malaysia. So I guess you're truly global in this particular panel discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. Tan. Moving on to our next speaker, Mr. Subhajit Mazumdar. He is the Director of Strategic Growth of Microsoft India. He has close to 15 years of experience in management consulting, where he's built expertise at the intersection of strategy and operations and consumer products and retail across KPMG, Ernst & Young, and Infosys Consulting. As a part of his industry career, he blends new business models, deep understanding of customers, and new technology to take high impact ideas at execution at scale, which is made possible with great partner and platform ecosystems in the digital area. Sir, if you could lend your view on innovation in the corporate world.
Thank you so much, Rashmi, and thanks for this platform and inviting me to this platform. So great to see such a good mix of attendees and participants across the globe. Happy to be here. Coming on to my perspective about innovation. So while the topic is really about tech disruption, but I think I would want to define the scope of innovation slightly broadly, because innovation can happen in the area of tech, or it could happen in the areas of business models or operating models, or in terms of how organizations build capabilities these days. So I think innovation can happen at any facet of the organization. Innovation can happen at any stage in the value chain of an industry, right? But what has typically become very prominent over the last few years is technology has started playing a very, very key role in everything that businesses do. Okay. And I started my career in management consulting. So I was more on the business side. I used to define 5-year strategies, 3-year strategies for clients, create business plans, take new products to markets, and so on and so forth. Over the last 4-5 years, I started figuring out that none of my pure play strategy work can be done without understanding the impact and implications of tech in that space. So gone were the days when you could just build a business plan and say that, I would get people, I'll get operations to work on it, and I will go ahead and sell and distribute products or services to customers. What started happening was business models started getting defined in a very different way. And as these new business models and business model innovations started happening, it was all done keeping the digital native, who's the customer today, literally the digital native who's born in the digital world, at the center. So this customer thinks very, very differently from the traditional customers, the old gen customers that businesses used to serve maybe 10 years back. And when you keep that customer at the center, you essentially define very, very different and unique customer journeys. And these customer journeys get enabled by a lot of innovative technology that comes into play. So essentially what I started seeing was business and digital and tech meshing like never before. Okay. And therefore, in the last 4-5 years, if you see the pace of change and the acceleration of change that we have all gone through as businesses, it has been far, far more, holistic and really, really pervasive across different facets of life. So the way you do your business, the way you work as an employee, the way you learn as a student or as an educator, the way you interact in society, everything has changed. And because of this change, a lot of new kinds of services products have actually emerged in the business. So that's my initial opening thought on innovation. I think it's difficult to define what innovation really is, because that's the fun about innovation, because you might actually do a very small minor tweak and that creates a absolutely radical value proposition, for customers or for employees. And that could be innovation. Or you could actually spend multi-million dollars in a lab and create a new gen product, which is futuristic, which does something very, very different from nothing that has precedence. And that could also be called innovation. And how, if you look at the jargon or the literature of innovation, people typically talk about incremental innovation and breakthrough innovation, right? But I think in this world and in the country that we live, where really impact is measured by how we are able to scale a particular product or service or offering. I think it's really, really important that incremental innovations, and to be able to do this faster and to be able to do this more number of times, is actually far more impactful than doing a breakthrough innovation that takes a long time. So that would be my opening statement. Rashmi, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mazumdar. I think all of us will have a lot of innovative definitions of innovation, like you said. Well, moving on to our next speaker here today, Mr. Sunil Acharya. He is a senior executive with 18 years of experience driving success and change in the companies that he's been a part of. His industry experience spans from the public sector and government, education and academia, and health industries in the areas of policy, government relations, sales management, and business development in the technology sector. Over to you, Mr. Acharya, if you could lend us your thoughts on this topic.
Hey, thanks everybody. Hi Aditya, hi Sandeep. It's a very large topic. Okay, so I'm going to give you the briefest possible explanation of what we've been saying. Amazon has been the most innovative company for many, many years, and was the most innovative company in 2017 globally. And if you look back, I've been across multiple companies, and what I find very different at Amazon, why I think it still is very, very innovative, is the culture of innovation that it has for the company. And there are peculiar ways this company is very different, and that drives a whole bunch of innovation at all levels. Keeping the customer in the center, there is a bunch of work that is done across board, whether it's the process of hiring people, and the entire process of hiring people in the company to come with a builder mindset and not an execution mindset creates a very, very fundamental layer for innovation. So if you look at it, typically there are fundamental things that I have seen over the last 2 years here. One that I think really strongly is something called the PRFAQ method, wherein which we look ahead 2 quarters down and actually make a press release note called PRFAQ of what the idea is going to be in the press, and then work backwards from there to make that a reality. Okay. And when I joined this place, I always thought that that was a kind of a strange idea to try working on. And I've actually practiced that over the last couple of years. And it is actually amazing to see how much you can accomplish when you have some clarity as to what the final outcome is. And then you work backwards on that, which primarily makes you identify the right set of people to work with. First, the idea, the right set of people, the processes, the mechanisms to measure and track progress, and then the outcome. But you work with the outcome to start with. So that's a very, very fundamental, different way of looking at how to engage in the market. And I see that across. If you look at most of the innovations now in the market that Amazon is driving, whether it's a robo-based delivery in the US for Amazon delivery, okay, whether it's a drone-based delivery that you've seen happening right now, everything is at least 4 to 5 years ahead. Same Amazon Web Services today currently is far ahead of anybody in the market with regard to the services that it has. And that's coming primarily because the foundational employee base is coming with a builder mindset. And that's driving that conversation forward. And that's a big differentiator in the market. That's happy to be part of the panel here. Go ahead, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Acharya. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next speaker for the day, Mr. Swapnil Jain. He's the CEO of ORAI Robotics, and he has more than 17 years of experience and expertise in the areas of product evangelism, project management, seed investments, mentorship, entrepreneurship, leadership, and so on. The list goes on. He strives for constant innovation in the world of business transformation, digital adoption, and artificial intelligence. If we could hear from you, Mr. Jain.
Thank you, and hope my voice is audible to everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good evening, everyone, and thanks, Sandeep sir, for extending the invite for this very, very innovative summit. And though she was saying that I have got a lot of experience, but I know that when I meet Aditya, I also find the same age like Aditya. Aditya, I think you think so, right? Right. So yeah, we all are talking about the innovation today, and I mean, definitely for me, it's like coming in with the ideas and the methodologies, typically carrying out the existing activities, or finding the opportunity where innovation can take up the place. But I definitely call it as in performance amplification. That's where innovation starts coming up. And this is definitely one of my mantra for my work and the way I live. Anything and everything, if it can be amplified, if the performance can be amplified, the innovation can come to the play there. And I mean, there is a lot of young generation of the young people along with Aditya, those who are there, those who may find it difficult that, hey, how do I become an innovator? How do I find an innovation? So for me, how do you become an innovator? Actually, by doing no innovation. And that's how the no stands for new opportunities with innovation. So there are multiple set of challenges, what we always keep on finding in daily basis. I mean, COVID has definitely become one kind of an opportunity to do a lot of innovation if the innovation cannot be done in the existing things. And that's where Aditya has also brought in the kind of an innovation, and the way he's taken it up, he's going to change the world around us. So there are situations which comes across the way where the innovation can start. The most difficult part is the moment the young buddies who start thinking, okay, I would like to innovate, there are friends, colleagues, mentors, and multiple other people, those who probably starts looking the negative side of the innovation faster than anyone else. And that's where I always have a problem. So what I started doing it, the moment I get an idea, the moment I think it may be a good idea or a stupid idea, I do not know. I decide that at least for a week, without even discussing with anyone, I would actually work towards only ensuring that how this idea can transform into a social cause or into a business. Till the time I have not spent that a week's time, I would not have my thought process coming up. The moment it comes up, and the moment then you go and take it this innovative ideas or any idea to the people, I mean, you will be more knowledgeable and more informative than anyone else. Then the discussions becomes logical. Then somebody on the face cannot say, no, boss, I don't see that an idea. And that's where, I mean, probably I have met Aditya 2-3 times in the past 2-3 years, and probably more than that. I mean, Aditya is not just one dreamer. Okay, he have been a dreamer. You have always dreamed of doing big things. But the best part here is you are a person of an action as well. And thanks to Sandeep sir as well to giving that kind of a platform always. So you have taken actions. You have always wanted to start that first step towards it. Whether it is tough, whether it is easy, but let's take that step. And that's Suraksha Kit is one of the major click which might have happened off or from 10 ideas or 20 ideas you might have thought of. This idea probably must have never come up 2 years back or 1 year back, but something which has come up now. So always keep on thinking and spend some time in terms of framing that idea a little bigger is the keyword I think for the innovation. I myself practice that a lot, and I mean, this may not be sounding good, but I know I can speak about it because we are at the Young Forum. During this COVID, everything stops from March mid and all, and till almost a month. And I live in Bangalore at a Sharjapura Road side. So it happens that we were not going anywhere. The entire society, people have started looking as an enemies to each other, like we don't really wanted to go and interact also. But yeah, over a month happened. And then what happened that we all started, they were close friends. We always keep on doing parties in the apartments and all that. We started finding, what do we do now? Because we can't go anywhere out of it. We started figuring out the games which we can play. And then we were not getting space. Sometime in the garden place, we have an issue of the badminton playing, the air, the breeze, the rain, and anything else happens. Then somehow we figured out a place in our basement parking that, hey guys, can we use this place and just start playing cricket there? I mean, that was one of the amazing thought which came because that will keep us rolling. But the cricket is one answer. If you have seen to it, okay, cricket, what's new about it, man? What's innovative about it? Nothing, you guys can play it out. But the way we had then took it up, that okay, there were boundaries, there were car parks. We decided the direct hits on the car, the offside will not be forced, the legs will be forced, the runs will be taken with the shorter steps. There will not be a balling, it will be a throw balling. We started trying implementing this small things. And the moment we started implementing this thing, after 2.5 months, 3 months, we had a foolproof plan or the rules and regulations for the game that today we started with 4 people. Today we have around 15 odd people, those who wanted to play that cricket in that small area. But we have to say, we have to make the teams sit outside and not allow them to play. But we have just made it innovative and fun. Now, we are now talked about in the society everywhere. And we are having fun today. I mean, today anyone calls me after 5:30 till 7, no man, I'm not available after 5:30 to 7. Please touch me out after 7. I'm again available even till 10, because we all have forgot about time in the COVID time, what time we are working 24/7. So that's a small piece of an innovation. I think because of the young generation, I would be able to talk about this much. So the only thing which I would like to basically give it to the young kids is, any ideas which comes to your mind, please take it up, start working towards it. Don't discuss with anyone, nor your friends, nor your parents, nor anyone, because you have always availability of a God right in hand of yours, which we all call Google, right? So you do your own research, you make your plans, spend a week on that particular idea, and only think the positive side of that in the idea. The rest all can happen after a week. That's what the inputs from my end. Thanks, and signing off.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Moving on to our next speaker, Mr. Paresh Shah. He's the CEO of Allied Digital Services Limited. He has over 28 years of experience in the IT sector, most of which he was in the US, India, and serving many other global clients. He has been a hands-on CEO, driving various subsidiaries globally, and he carries leadership expertise in all divisions of the enterprise. Mr. Shah, if you could lend your view on our topic for today.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, dear students, fellow panel members, as well as the moderators. I was listening to everybody. It's a wonderful time to get the idea of how people talk about it. And I would just share some words also. I've been part of innovation for about 17 years. Past in I've been leading the innovation division in Wipro, as well as in Allied Digital, while I'm the CEO. Being part of this, taking a position of a CEO, yet innovation is my passion, and this is what I'm going to talk about, what I have learned for 17 years, especially to the students. I would like to say that innovation is pretty much the mother of all invention. When you have need, there is always an invention. So it's important today, right from in the economy point of view. As you know, the world is really competitive, so everybody has to innovate. Innovation is a mantra for every corporate, as well as socially, because it's very important today, as we are having a growing population, we have growing needs. It's important that even not only business wise, but also socially, that we innovate. I'll just quote few examples. We actually run the whole Pune Safe City initiative, and it's already 5 years. But we brought a lot of innovation today, because when we see this innovation actually in works, you will get great satisfaction that you made a difference to the society. Okay, just imagine when the COVID situation, the police, though they are away, and they can announce just right from their headquarters that yes, maintain social distancing, okay, make sure please follow these instructions. It made their job so easier, sitting at one corner and making sure the entire Pune they can address and talk. So I'm just talking about some examples for each of the students. The most important today, we are living in the world of instant gratification. So everybody wants results right away. So I would like to tell you some few important things. Number one, we need to make sure we are very much strong mentally. So each student has a lot of ability. Everybody has the ability to innovate. That you should remember, and make sure that you cultivate the mind for it. And for that, you need a good mental strength. Make sure that you are confident and tolerant. Today, it's very important that patience and confidence being part of the social life is very important. Number two, making sure that you bring the nurturing of creativity in the education, which is really for the teachers and the professors to see that the education definitely brings in creativity, very important. And third is agility. Okay, making sure that each of you are fit, even physically, making sure you are socially talking. If we are living in a digital world, in a corner, in a situation like COVID, where we actually corner ourselves, it is also important to how can we can kind of talk about it and socialize and make sure we are pretty much alert what is going on. So these are some of the three important things I would say to every student, that you mentally be more fit. You really use knowledge is education. Really what you get is really a king, and you make sure you use best for creativity. And lastly, make sure that you are agile, not sitting in the corner and at the home as soon as the COVID comes out, or you keep yourself fit on that. The other important thing I want to highlight is as Aditya also had, great passion and vision. So that's very important. Every innovator need to have a vision. They should have a picture in mind, what they want to do, how they want to solve the problem, what they visualize. When they get an idea, there should be a very good visionary, very good way to picturize that. Second thing very important is make sure that they have passion for it. If you have to have a hunger to take that idea forward, and yeah, you should have that mental strength to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So that's very important. And the third thing important is to have a plan. Okay, many of us don't plan. We have vision, we have ideas, but if you don't plan a roadmap, how am I going to do this, that plan is also important to think about it. So when you have all these, you have idea with vision, passion, and planning, definitely nobody can stop you. You can really make the change. Today we are living in a disruptive world, and disruptive really means there's going to be major changes, and people who can kind of work in this competitive world, make sure that they kind of think differently out of the box, whether it is technology driven or whether it's a renewable energy driven. There are various sources. Obviously technology is enabler for a lot of innovations, but absolutely there are a lot of areas, both socially as well as business wise, that you need to think. So that's very important. I hear the common words, if you want to say what is an innovation, people talk about it, whether it is better, cheaper, and quicker. Okay, is this a standard innovation, which is what I heard Narayan Murthy talking about 20 years back. But really, the one more word I would like to add, is it easier? Okay, so you think about this, every student should think about the problem and see whether can they solve it in a better way, in an easier way, in a cheaper way, okay, and a faster way. And that should definitely give them the idea, yes, this is something I want to take it forward. From the business point of view, we always engage our people. I also, as a CEO, also believe innovation is for all. It means for every person can be innovative if he gives time to think about it, than the routine things that they already do. So in our organization, we have made sure innovation is for all. We basically introduce practices like design thinking, which gives from the education point of view, how to go about thinking innovatively, how I can basically generate, whether it's not just a solution idea, but it could be a business idea, a presentation idea. It's all about how you kind of have a different way of thinking. We also bring in special interest groups, which I want to tell a lot of students here that, yeah, you can create your own focus areas, 3 or 4 focus areas that you like it. And that's how you will start thinking in ideas, because today's generation is really wanting to kind of do, but they don't have that patience and tolerance. So definitely I see that making sure that you become part of a structured innovation thinking, it is also important that you gather that mental strength. So this is what I will kind of conclude, and really appreciate next gen innovate, who is doing fantastic in things in doing the innovation movement. I pledge, and also I want everybody to join that, plus the Suraksha kits that they have pledged for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. And we have another speaker, Mr. Dasgupta. He is the Senior Manager at Automation Anywhere University. He is part of global training and certification at Automation Anywhere and manages government initiatives and training partnerships across countries in India, Middle East, Africa, and the Asia Pacific regions. Mr. Dasgupta, if you could please lend your view on innovation in corporates.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmi. I think I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you. And big thanks to FMA Digital ASMA team for conducting World Student Innovation Summit and bringing together all of us in today's discussion. It's always a pleasure to interact with the innovative minds on innovation. Now, of the many diverse and fascinating challenges that we have in our lives today, the most intense and the important one is to how we understand and shape the new technology revolution, which essentially entails how less than transformation of humankind, that's nothing less than transformation of humankind, and behind all its pure power of innovation. That's what we are seeing. Let us consider the unlimited possibilities that the billions of people are getting connected over the mobile devices, giving the rise to unprecedented processing power, storage capacities, capabilities, and the knowledge access, and many others, including 3D printing, autonomous vehicle, and so many. So primarily, and particularly when the time we are going through the pandemic, difficulties and the challenges from various angles and very different magnitudes. Innovation remains as the only aspect which helps us to stay afloat the way we are doing now by reducing the barriers between geography, time, and access the relevant information. And that's what we are doing. Now let's take a closer look on some of the recent interesting facts around the world and across domains. It's nothing to do with the IT industry or any particular technology domain specifically. It's basically the power of innovation, which is changing even the very traditional ways which we thought earlier mostly unchangeable in the past. Say, for example, the more number of people are signed up for Harvard's online courses in a single year than have attended the actual university 384 years of existence. This was not possible earlier, right? The greater number of unique visits to WebMD network than to all the doctors together working in USA. It's not only about what's happening in the medical field or what's happening in the traditional education. If you look at the religious side as well, Pope Francis is having 18.7 million followers in Twitter, but Dalai Lama is having 19.3 million followers in his Twitter account, which is unimaginably large. And no one thought, Twitter would reach to Pope or Dalai Lama, and millions of folks will be following them over their online account, right? So these are the big numbers, but what we are talking about, we're not talking about the scale. We're talking about the speed of innovation that's essentially is changing the world, and we are there in Industrial Revolution 4.0 now. Just think about it. Very, very, very interesting. The first time we understood the innovation is needed in the history of mankind, when we saw the transition from foraging to farming, happened around 10,000 years ago, and it was made possible simply by domestication of the animals. That's the way we started taking the help from different breed of animals and technology in farming. And since then, we have gone through the multiple dynamic shifts. The first, second, third industrial revolution, and we are in the fourth one now. And across the world right now, the impact of 4.0 in IR 4.0, that's what we are calling it, is much deeper, faster, and visible. But now let's look at another set of facts. First industrial revolution gave birth to the rail engines. As of 2018, I was reading somewhere, there were more than 25 countries in the world who do not have the railroads. At least they didn't have the railroads till 2018. Second industrial revolution helped us to understand and use the power of electricity. 100 years plus have gone. Still today, nearly 20% of the world are deprived of electricity. Industrial Revolution 3.0 brought the power of internet, and more than 3 billion people now, they have no access to internet. So this is, in one side, what we are seeing, the big numbers are floating due to technology and innovation. On the other side, we are seeing even bigger numbers where we are yet to reach. And that's the gap which only innovation can fill, and that's the opportunity for us. So today, as we are celebrating the program launch on Gandhi Jayanti, and the difference which we are seeing between those two, drastically different way of looking at the numbers. This is possibly what Mahatma Gandhi said as the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing. And that would solve the most of the world's problems. So I'm taking a point here, and that's very crucial whenever we drive innovation. And there's something the technology companies could possibly help, and that's basically how we could reduce the cost of failure. When we talk about innovation, it also comes with some risks. It also comes with lots of failures. The earlier panelists have spent quite an amount of time highlighting the possibility of failures. But what I'm trying to highlight here is it's not about the failure, how we can utilize the technology to reduce the cost of failure, making innovation more viable engine to reduce the gap. So if you look at the innovation doesn't stand on its own glory, and the challenges that we have, there we have various technologies. Even we can start with cloud. It helped to extend the power of technologies to millions of people, and they are getting the support from the centralized computing facilities, and they're spending lesser, and it's helping them to reduce the cost of failure as well. So when we are looking at innovation, it's very important that we look at this particular aspect. Now, if I look at my professional angle, I represent Automation Anywhere, a global leader in robotic process automation. So we have been focusing only in this particular area for quite some time, that how we can make the human work more humanly, reducing the mundane, boring work, and that can be passed to the software bots. Essentially, how we can take the robots from the human being, robots out of the human being, we make ourselves more human. Think about that, look at the innovation and drive things so that the mundane and the repetitive tasks can be taken care by the bots that we have built. So this might not be the right platform to talk more on the technology that we have, and I'll be more than happy to work with Aditya and his team on thinking further how we can drive the technology innovation with the technologies that we have, and help them, everyone. So with that, I close my session here and look forward to hearing from the eminent other speakers in the panel. And Aditya, congratulations many times for your endeavor, and all future success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dasgupta. Well, we have thousands of viewers on social media, and I'm sure they're enjoying this discussion. I have a couple of questions for our esteemed panel. So I'm going to start with a little bit of basic here, and then probably move into a little more complex, not complex, but probably build into the questioning a little later. To begin with, all of us here, I think we agree that if we have to gain success, we have to build in certain habits in us, and we have to make sure they're habits, because we have to do it repeatedly. So to start off with, Mr. Mazumdar, if you can tell us, what are the habits that you would suggest our viewers, our kids, children, everyone out there, to build in themselves to make sure they can innovate and they continue to innovate?
So, Rashmi, the way Indian education system has been traditionally, it's changing a bit nowadays, but It's been much more top down. It's been much more structured, and uh, it's often created environments where students are not encouraged to ask questions, challenge norms. Uh, you're being given a theory, you will have to accept it, you will have to perform well, you'll have to score good marks and move on. I think it's changing a little bit now, but the seed of being innovative is a developing curiosity. And I think to the students who are listening in, the audience who's listening in, my view is one of the things to develop early is to encourage students to ask questions. And even if the questions are very basic, they sometimes might seem stupid, but that's fine. You should ask questions so that you know the correct knowledge and the correct interpretation of a topic then and there, you know. And this is a principle that I have followed all my life. So, uh, in any class or any session, if I was not able to understand something, I would always raise my hand and ask that question, because I believe that if you did not understand it today, you would be a bigger fool 5 years back, 5 years later. So it's better to be a fool today and ask that question and know, and learn from it, and not be a fool 5 years later. So ask questions, challenge with facts. Not Don't challenge just for the sake of challenging. Challenge with facts, uh, with a mentality to learn. That would be my key advice to students.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Acharya, you mentioned something about culture of innovation when in your talk earlier. So if you could also lend your view on the same question, habits for innovation.
I think there's two things that we should try and get students to adapt earlier. I think one for sure is not to have a fear of failure, and have the courage to try out things, experiment, okay, and not do crazy experiments and do something with yourself, but then you could do small control experiments to test out your ideas before you jump and take the plunge into it. That's one. I think that's something that the education system is changing, but it really hasn't driven that. So you look at a lot of people, they're not very comfortable doing something new. They would rather do something that's already been done earlier, and therefore you don't see too many people doing new things. And that's one. I think fear of failure is not a very good thing when it comes to innovation. So have no fear of failure. Second one that I think is interesting that we're seeing over the last couple of years changing is the need to self-learn or continuous learning. Uh, and the pandemic has taught us that even more in a harder way right now. But the fact really is that learning is not necessarily limited to the classroom. You can learn from anywhere. And you have enough systems now where if you have the interest to learn, you have enough services available out there for you to pick up a topic and learn something, okay? And this self-learning culture has never been there. We had to have a teacher in the classroom and telling us we got to do something, and then we follow that, and we have a textbook and all that stuff. So the online learning platforms, plenty of free learning available out there, and students can actually start doing that if they just practice that. You can learn a whole bunch of new things, okay? And you can learn new technologies, new areas, new languages. Everything's available online for you. The pandemic has basically helped students realize that you can do a lot more learning things on the net, not just the social engagement, but you can do a lot more nice things there. So I think these are two elements that I think are important for us to help children accumulate and start working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Acharya. Mr. Tan, if you can lend us a view on, there is something that has been bothering me when it comes to innovation. Are we improvising in the name of innovation? Is there a difference between the two, or does improvising also come under the category of innovation?
I think innovation can come in many ways. Improvising is definitely one of the ways. So because as I say that we're in the 21st century, many things has been invented. So you don't go back and invent something totally non-exist, breakthrough things. So even, yeah, I take examples. I work in the semiconductor industry for a long time, in Intel. So the Moore's law, how the Moore's law can come from incrementals, continue. squeeze the thousands of circuit into the small panel. So these are all incrementals, and they are looking at the different kind of the qualities of the attributes of the materials to squeeze things inside. And improvising things become part of the norms for the semiconductor engineers to do that. So you know, when you say improvising, you should look at this. I think this way, I think when we ask about, I keep on talking about critical thinking, because this way you really need to analyze and look at the environments. And as a student, anything in the environment has relevance in terms of innovations. And you can observe very well what are the environment, particularly like in the pandemic, what Aditya is doing, right? So he looked at the needs to create something for sanitizing, and then here it comes solve a problem, and then a new product was created. Likewise, I think for many young students, I believe we can do the same things, because if you look at things surroundings and then start to improvise things, some of the incrementals innovation will come out. And when you improvise some of the materials, and then you pop, that's all, you come out with something new, and who knows, they will be the next inventors.
All right, that was wonderful. Mr. Mazumdar, my next question is for you. You also spoke something about innovation earlier. You talked about two types of innovation earlier today. Today, since there's no longer the time where you create one product and that product exists in the market for say 10 years, 20 years, and then you think about what next do we do. The speed of innovation has increased tremendously, and the shelf life has reduced a lot from what it was way before. So is innovation becoming a constant need for companies today? What's your view on it? Because I see a lot of companies where product one is yet to be launched. Like if tomorrow is the launch date, product two is already in process. So what's your view on that?
Yeah, so I completely agree that innovation is a continuous need for companies today. I think gone are the days when you could launch a product and the product life cycle would be 15 to 20 years without much change. So typically once a product gets launched, there is always some incremental innovations that happen on the product to keep augmenting the life cycle. These could be in the form of new features, new versions, a little bit of rehashing and rebadging of the product until it's reached the end of its life cycle, when you know that you now need a new product to take shape. But what's important for companies now is to watch out that, what are the other substitutes that's going to come and literally so, and there are a lot of examples. Camera, they never figured out what hit them, and one day they were just obsolete and redundant, doing nothing wrong. They were developing the product, they had excellent products, but there were other products which came from adjacencies and took them away, and sometimes not from adjacencies. Okay, so in today's world, in the digital world, what I believe is experiences and competences are very fungible. So people learn from something very different, not associated, not related to a particular product, but can bring that particular feature or trait into that. Okay, so imagine a mobile phone replacing a camera, right? Or a computer or a mobile phone replacing a photocopier, right? So these were not in the same industry anyway. So absolutely important to continuously improve, innovate, and companies do that. There are different models to do that. So sometimes companies would typically have an innovation team which continuously does this, thinks through the entire value chain of the business and figures out where there is scope. People institute chief innovation officers, so you have leaders who kind of lead this from the top. A lot of corporations now have these startup ecosystems incubated within them. So essentially new startups, young minds, fresh ideas keep coming, and they are incubated and they are grown, and these are different models in which companies continuously innovate.
While you were speaking, the product that came to my mind, or the company that came to my mind, was Kodak. They actually lost out when the digital cameras completely took over the world for actually no fault of theirs. Their product was really good. So innovation probably is also adapting to the world around you. along with improvising. So I think all of them go hand in hand. All right. Thank you so much.
And by the way, Nokia, yeah, Nokia, which was the largest smartphone or yeah, the phone maker at one point in time, which replaced the Kodak camera, got replaced by Android because they were not watching out what was happening in the world.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. All right. My next question is to Mr. Shah. So youngsters today, when they are going out to apply for jobs, do you envisage a situation where there would be departments dedicated to innovation in corporates? So you're on mute, I think. Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Can you just repeat?
Yes, sure. Youngsters today, when they are going out to find jobs for themselves, do you think they will, do you envisage a situation where all of the companies, the corporates, will they have departments dedicated to innovation? Should youngsters today have an aim and goal to get into those departments? Because honestly, in our schools and colleges today, nobody speaks about departments dedicated to innovations.
Yes, I think every youngster should basically, in their early career, think about being part of the innovation, because it's very important. It gives them the base, what they have learned, how to think differently. So every corporate nowadays, definitely everybody has to innovate, otherwise they cannot survive. So either they have independent divisions, or they have certain groups which are actually building new products, new services, new offerings all the time. Usually the youngsters get two types of opportunities. One is, run and build, which is very common word. That is, run is really making sure that, whatever is going on, you basically pick up and do the running operations for the company. Very few people get an opportunity to do build. Build is where it is transformation and innovation that comes. So definitely if youngsters get an opportunity, they should love for it. And it is not easy to get into that. Because out of 100 students, very few people will be selected for a build role in the corporate. So it's an excellent opportunity, and youngsters should definitely be proud of it, being in part of that, as they will come across and learn so many technologies. As soon as they come into technologies or whatever the business is in 2 years, that they really will be full of knowledge, and they can take that same corporate forward, or obviously look into that as a. So definitely it's another one big step for again gaining more knowledge. So youngsters should definitely grab this kind of opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. Mr. Jain, next question is to you. All of you here are from corporates, right? From the corporate world. And when it comes to investments, I think in the olden days, the investments would revolve more around the infrastructure, the processes, what kind of systems, what kind of, or maybe ISO certifications and so on. Has today the criteria to decide on investing in a certain company or not, does it also include innovation or your track record in innovation?
A very interesting question. And the honest answer to it, the first thing anyone and everyone look today is like, what innovation are you bringing to the table? Right. So, in one of my recent experience, or basically what I've been doing, I've been investor in many companies and helped startups and mentored many startups to take up their path. But recently I happened to be myself as in a startup again. And that happened because I found certain innovation in the way the things were happening. So I started myself that as an innovation along with my partners. And in the span of just 6 months, we actually brought the organization from 0 to $5 million company. So this is only possible because there was certain level of an innovation in the existing set of problems what the industry had. And today, we ourselves has become kind of a startup and going out to the investors and meeting to invest in our company. So with where they see us that, hey, you guys are talking about something and say the space where we have come into the conversational AI and ML related product, which helps sales and marketing amplification. What is happening is the problem was same, and there are many players across the world. but a little difference in the way we do it, a little difference what we tried bringing into the innovative technology to it, and helping solve the real-time problem. Because product, everyone makes it, but it has to be solving a real-time problem of the businesses or the corporates. That's where the difference comes in. So yes, as you asked, the first thing me as an investor or me as a startup always looks, what is the innovation we are bringing to the table?
Thank you so much, Mr. Jain. Moving on, Mr. Acharya, my next question is to you. I would like to go back to one of the quotes from Thomas Edison. He said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work." But today, if as corporates, would we appreciate, I mean, we have to be practical, right? But do we appreciate or do we stand by a person who would probably fail 10,000 times? In simple terms, would you sack Edison if he was working with you?
Okay, so I'm going to respond a little differently on that question. Okay, so that's a different example on the whole, but then from a culture of innovation perspective, right, there is this belief that every employee in the company has the right to innovate and simplify the engagement process with customers. As long as what you're doing is keeping the customer in mind, what you do, the company stands by you. It doesn't mean that you go crazy and do crazy things. Okay, it means that in a controlled environment, they absolutely support failures. And you would see that we've had, at least in Amazon, there have been quite a number of things that have not really worked out. Okay, but then what has not worked out has given direction to new things to come from. For example, eco. Okay, the eco speakers that came, right, that primarily came from a failed project to make a mobile device. That's where the speakers came in from. And the company backed the person saying that, yeah, that's great learning. How do you take that learning and apply that for something next? And that's completely changed the way. So there are companies that are very open to the idea of people taking risks and trying out new experiments in a controlled manner. I want to underline that. Okay, and if that experiment fails, companies actually back you. It's not that bad. Okay, and this whole word of entrepreneur, there's also something called entrepreneur, which primarily is people within companies trying to do new things. And there is a culture that's coming very, very strong across most corporates to try and support that. So people are allowed to do what they like to do. That's happening.
I have a follow-up question for you on similar terms. When people fail, as society in general, I think we do not see them as in the road to success or in the process towards success. We brand them as failures. Where do you think the shift of mindset needs to happen? I can think of different areas where it needs to happen, but from your point of view, from your perspective, where do you think the shift in the mindset needs to happen?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you an example of my own life, right? I spent many years at a very large corporate, quite a long number of years. I took a plunge to start my own company. Okay, and I failed miserably. Okay, I spent 18 months trying to build an organization, tried raising capital, never got it, but we had fun. 18 months of absolute joy of building solutions. Okay, we really had spent time, no salary for 18 months. It was great fun. Okay, and the general perspective of people around was that he's not getting another job, so he's doing this. Okay, that's the mindset. Okay, so you can't change that. Okay, so whenever I see startups, so I also handle startups as a vertical in my role at Amazon. I manage that for India. So I see a lot of young startups coming our way for advice as to what to do, and I have a lot of learnings in the 18 months where I failed. Okay, to me those learnings are fantastic, and I think I can give that learnings to a bunch of new startups and hopefully help them move in the right direction. Okay, but you can't change society's view of that. To them, I still will be a failure, which is fine. Okay, but it's about evolving gradually. The next generation will be more open to this than the previous generation, is the way I look at it.
That's great, actually. I think the way I look at it, you do not regret the 18 months of no salary. It doesn't matter to you because the shift in the mindset is something that happened within yourself. And I think that matters more than anything on how people around us look at us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Mr. Dasgupta, the same question extended to you also, sir. Where do you think the shift in the mindset needs to happen?
So I think this is what I was mentioning earlier when I was talking on innovation. That which is that particular point when we understand that it's going to fail, and how can we measure that? That's very important. Okay, and once we can do that, if there is a failure and we measure, and as Sunil rightly pointed out, that his failure was not actually a failure, rather it helped him to learn. So there is the the balance. We are failing but not learning, and we are failing and learning. That's somewhere the ability to learn quickly comes. Because the moment I'm failing, I'm knowing one thing, that these are the 5 things possibly will never work for me, which is fine. There cannot be everything which will work for every one of us or each one of us. So it's summarizing. It's basically a failing and we learning the reasons why I failed, and helping people in the similar direction is something I think all of us we need to do. And specifically, when we are talking about innovation, we are building innovation. Building the future is something we should contribute.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Jain, I would like to come back to you for my next question. Innovation historically has been attributed to individuals. I wouldn't say all of it, but major portion of it has been attributed to individuals. And as corporates, we definitely know that companies look at not reinventing the wheel and collaborating. But youngsters today who want to be entrepreneurs and they want to be inventors, they do not understand the concept of collaboration as well as the corporates do. What would you like to suggest to these young inventors out there on why collaboration is important?
I think typically people want to be heroes, so they want to have the idea to their own. So typically the youngster want to be, and it's quite common. But you look at how the things has evolved, technology has evolved. You can't learn everything on your own, right? So especially in the corporate world, I think maybe the culture is different. Sometimes in the past we say that in the Western world they kind of like say that you promote a single type of heroes, but that thing kind of evolved with Asian cultures. I think in the Eastern world we're more in the team kind of animals. So I think in this part I would say that that thing has changed so much so far that if you try to be alone and then you come out something new, but then if you leverage on technologies and you just be alone, lone rangers, how much can you proceed, right? So in corporate world, I typically like when I run the organizations, I try to assist them to promote the teamwork, where at the end we kind of rewards based on the group kind of results. Of course, we still encourage individuals to try out to be very much innovate on their own, but then at the end it's the aggregates of result that contribute to the organizations that counts. So because if not, I think the fundament, I would say the foundation of the organization will collapse, because somebody just try to be on the self gains, and that foundation will not be solid. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Han. Well, I think I would like to bring in Aditya's case when it comes to collaboration. I think even in his case, the Suraksha box that he's created, for him to get into production and actually get this product out in the market, it probably would make way more sense to collaborate with someone who already has, say, one of the component or multiple components ready, and probably speed up the launch of the product with that, rather than wait forever to create everything on his own and then miss out on the opportunity that is out there in the market. So I guess that is a very important point that all our young listeners, or even the older ones who want to invent right now, should keep in mind about when it comes to collaboration and innovation.
Yeah, I think you should leverage. I think you should leverage on what you have, because if you try to be everything on your own, because the world today has moved so fast with the information, and people can catch up very fast. And I give you an example in China. I mean, things move very fast. If you don't collaborate, your idea gets stolen. Yeah, you're gone.
Right, absolutely
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tan. One reaction from all of you. For you personally, I do not want to talk about the roles that you play in your respective organizations, but for all of you personally, when you think about innovation, one word or one quality or trait that is most important to you when you talk about or think about innovation, what would it be? So each one of you can tell me that one trait, that would be great. Mr. Tan, let's start with you.
For me, it's about disciplines. I think, although it's a bit of old school, but I would say that when you start with something, you must be persistent. So discipline drives what you continue stay on to the path. Without that discipline, I think youngsters will easily give up. So to me, it's really about disciplines. Yeah.
All right. So Jain, what would it be for you?
I mean, just thinking about what I do always, what next? Whatever you have achieved, what are you gonna do next? So the question which doesn't allow me to sleep in the nights is, what next?
All right, that's great. Mr. Acharya, what about you?
So I would think to think without constraints, I think is important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. So you're on mute.
Yeah, so I would think about ability to picturize the evolution of the solution. That is something the most important part of the innovation. Sometimes people just have a kind of thought that doesn't make it enough. It has to be a complete evolution of how you can picturize the idea, and that picture builds the passion inside you and the hunger to kind of innovate and the focus that you need. Okay, and also it helps you how you are going to build the teamwork to take support of other people. So if you can kind of picturize the entire evolution like a video in your mind, how the idea is going to shape up, nothing like it.
All right, that's wonderful. Visualization is a very important point, if you ask me.
Another one would be to the willingness to constantly adapt and change, because as we all know, the economy is growing so fast. Earlier, it used to be that we had less content and more people who process that information, and today it's the complete opposite. And the level at which content and everything is being developed and all these disruptive innovations are being created is at an unbelievable rate. And so entrepreneurs should have the constant ability to adapt and change as the world changes, right? Change is the new normal. So yeah.
Absolutely right, Aditya. Mr.
So
Dasgupta, what would you want to?
DevOps world today. So everything, development and operations, they all go together nowadays. That's the reason ability to adapt and change is also very important.
All right. Mr. Dasgupta, what would it be for you?
Persistence, because if you look at all the innovators, it's not that every time they're the best of the students or the best of the minds at that point of time, but they were persistent in what they believed and they kept trying the same thing again and again and again until either they succeed or they simply drop the idea.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Mazumdar, what would you have to say to this?
To me, I think it's the attitude to help, because there is a pain that you're trying to solve, and it's the attitude to help.
All right, wonderful points from all of you. I think each and every trait that all of you spoke about, if we draw them out, it would be like a wonderful tips, 7 tips, since Aditya also spoke about his view on it. 7 tips towards innovation and making the right kind of innovations. That also is very important in today's world, because we have so much of negativity. Right kind of innovations will actually push us towards a more positive innovate. And this entire initiative that we have with World Student Innovation Summit from all of you. Mr. Tan, let's start with you.
You mean the pledge or what? The pledge?
Sorry, sir?
This is the pledge for the thing or what? This is one line. What?
one line message from you towards the entire innovation summit that we have, towards for all these kids who are being a part of this innovation summit and Next Gen Innovate.
And the pledge.
Yeah.
And the pledge.
I will go with the pledge. So lastly, I think our pledge to join the innovation movement of Next Gen Innovate and the mission of 15.15K Surakar's kit to needy families and schools. And I think my last message, I think for students continue to innovate, I think I'm very passionate about critical thinking. I think the students to start learning if you have not. And one of the areas you can go into the language and debates is probably the areas I think is the easiest to hone your critical thinking skills. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tan. Jain.
Well, so I pledge to take Aditya innovation to the next level, helping with my current firm, backing up with the complete AI bots. That's the pledge I can take it up and help Aditya reach many other innovators, those who can join this platform.
Oh, wonderful. That's really wonderful. Mr. Acharya.
Is it a pledge or you want me to promote the innovation? I thought it's a pledge.
It can be both. Let's take both from you.
I'll stick to the pledge, okay? So
all right.
I think my message to the students primarily would be whatever field you choose to go, whether it's tech or non-tech, don't be another brick in the wall.
All right, that's wonderful. Mr. Shah?
Yeah, I really appreciate Next Gen Innovate when I read about it and the efforts of Aditya. Let's create more Adityas. We need not only for the business, but also for socially. We need innovation as we grow. This world grows. So definitely, and my pledge to make sure that this movement keeps growing, and my best wishes are with him.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. Mr. Dasgupta.
I don't know whether it's a pledge or not, but a comment, obviously. And it's like, just don't do for the sake of innovating anything. Do it for fun. Till time you are having fun, you're innovating.
Oh, that's great. I believe in that too. As long as you're having fun with what you're doing, you always do it in the best possible way you can. Mr. Mazumdar.
My message would be, keep things really simple and, have clarity towards what you're, moving towards. And don't lose sight of the end goal. Yeah, that would be my.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Well, it's been a wonderful panel discussion here today, and the esteemed panel, thank you all so much for being a part of this Innovation Summit. And like all of you said, in one way or the other, we need more Adityas. We need more such innovators and young innovators in our country and in our world to move this entire world towards, positivity and not go backward. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And over to you, Astha.